Obiefuna sat on a wooden bench under the ancient mango tree in his compound. His shoulders slumped as he stared into the distance, lost in thoughts. The sound of children playing in the neighborhood filled the air, a stark reminder of what was missing in his life. He longed to hear the laughter of his own children echo within his home, but the walls remained silent, filled only with the hums of Azuka's daily chores. Azuka, his dearly beloved wife, watched him from the doorway, clutching her wrapper tightly around her waist. She could see the lines of pain etched on her husband's face, the silent burden he carried as a man without children in a culture that celebrated lineage above all. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she swallowed them. She needed to be strong for both of them, even though her heart was just as broken. Earlier that week, Obiefuna had returned home visibly shaken from a family meeting where they went to discuss the sharing of ancestral lands. One of the elders had lashed out at him when he wanted to make a suggestion. "Obiefuna, sit down and keep quiet," the elder backed. "This discussion is for men who have children to inherit their land. You, who are you talking for? Yourself or the empty walls of your house?" The words stung like a whip, cutting deep into Obiefuna's pride. He didn't respond but left the meeting in tears. Long ago, in a small closely knit village in southeastern Nigeria called Onwaro, known for its rich tradition and communal lifestyle, carrying on the family name was regarded as a sacred duty. This made the absence of children in any marriage a matter of significant concern, often leading to whispers and scorn from neighbors and relatives. Obiefuna and Azuka were a young couple who had fallen deeply in love despite their different upbringings. Obiefuna was the first son of Ibuife, a proud and domineering woman who had dedicated her life to her family's legacy. Obiefuna was known for his gentle demeanor and unshakable faith, qualities that had drawn Azuka to him when they first met at a community event. Azuka, on the other hand, was a simple and kind-hearted woman from the neighboring village. Her marriage to Obiefuna was initially filled with joy and hope. They dreamed of building a family together, but 8 years of childlessness had turned their home into a battleground of pain and insults. Ibuife, her mother-in-law, was a staunch believer in her family's fruitfulness. She saw Azuka's inability to conceive as a curse on her lineage. She never missed an opportunity to ridicule her daughter-in-law, often calling her barren and useless. Inside, Azuka was battling her own demons. It had been 8 long years since they got married, and she is yet to conceive. Society's whispers had grown louder, turning into insults hurled openly by her in-laws. She tried to remain strong, but the pressure was breaking her piece by piece. One evening, during a family meeting, her mother-in-law, Ibuife, finally exploded. "Azuka, what are you still doing in my son's house? 8 years, not even a blind child to show for it. Are you not ashamed? Look at my daughters. They gave their husbands children. Even me, I gave my husband 5 children. But you, useless woman." "Mama, please," Azuka tried to speak, but her mother-in-law cut her off. "Shut up. If you had done your duty as a wife, we wouldn't be having this conversation. If you can't give Obiefuna a child, pack your things and leave his house. Let him marry another wife. We are fruitful in our family. You don't belong here." Azuka froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She turned to Obiefuna, hoping for support, but he sat silently, his head bowed. The silence from her husband was louder than his mother's insult. But deep down, Obiefuna had never in any way supported his mother's bullies. But instead, he was tired of the everyday fight his mother wages against his wife. Immediately, Obiefuna stood up to his mother. "Enough, Mama. Azuka has not done anything wrong. She is not the problem. Please, just leave her alone. Let her be. We are waiting on God's time." That night, Azuka cried until her pillow was soaked with tears. The humiliation she felt from her mother-in-law was unbearable, but it was far from the worst of it. A week later, Nwaanyị returned to the house with a beautiful young woman. Her name was Nkiruka, the daughter of her closest friend. Nkiruka was beautiful with a skin that glowed like freshly tapped palm oil and a shy smile that revealed perfect teeth. She carried herself with grace, and her wide, innocent eye darted nervously around the compound.
Obiefuna, Nwaanyị called out, her voice sharp. Come out here and meet your new wife. She is still a virgin. Unlike this loose woman you married, her womb is intact, ready to give you many children. Her breasts are full and succulent, not dry and useless like Azuka's. Azuka, who had been sweeping the corridor, dropped her broom in shock. She felt the world spinning around her as her mother-in-law's words sank in. Obiefuna, Nwaanyị continued, this is Nkiruka. She will give you the legacy Azuka had denied you for years. My son, you cannot allow this barren woman to ruin your life. You deserve better. Azuka's hand trembled as tears streamed down her face. She wanted to scream, to run, to disappear, but she stood rooted to the spot. Her heart shattered into pieces. Obiefuna finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. Mama, I married Azuka because I love her. I don't want another wife. What do you mean you don't want another wife? Nwaanyị snapped. Are you blind? Do you want to die childless? I said no, Mama, Obiefuna repeated. Azuka is my wife, and she will remain my wife. Furious, Nwaanyị turned to Azuka. Then leave this house. Pack your things and go back to your father's house. You are no longer welcome here. She stormed into the house, grabbed Azuka's belongings, and threw them into the compound. Azuka fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Desperate and broken, Azuka confided in her friend Chinenye, who had visited her a few days later. Chinenye, I can't take this anymore. They hate me. They all hate me, she cried. What have I not done to have a baby? What herbs have I not drank just to conceive? In all this, the doctor said we are medically okay. Honestly, Chinenye, I am worn off already. Chinenye placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Azuka, I understand your pain.
I went through the same thing, but I found a solution. What solution? Azuka asked, her voice trembling with hope. There is a native doctor deep in the forest. He helped me when I couldn't conceive. Within months, I became pregnant. Azuka hesitated, her heart torn between her faith in God and her desperation to save her marriage. After days of agonizing over the decision, she gave in.
Unknown to her, she was already 2 weeks pregnant. That night, Azuka didn't tell Obiefuna about meeting with her friend Chinenye. Early the next morning, she met her friend at the market square, and together they traveled deep into the forest. The native doctor's shrine was aired with charms and idols hanging from the trees. The air smelled of burning herbs and damp earth. The native doctor, an old man with a piercing gaze, asked Azuka to kneel down before the altar. He sprinkled her with water from a calabash and chanted incantations. Your womb has been cursed by a jealous spirit, he declared, but the gods can be appeased. You must perform a cleansing ritual and promise to dedicate the child to the water goddess once it's born. Desperate, Azuka agreed. She followed all the instructions, offering sacrifices and making the sacred promise. 2 weeks later, she missed her period. A visit to the clinic confirmed the unthinkable. She was pregnant. Overwhelmed with joy, Azuka shared the news with Obiefuna, who fell to his knees thanking God for the miracle. But in her heart, Azuka believed it was the native doctor's work, and she remembered her promise. When their daughter Chizamekpere was born, Obiefuna insisted they name her to reflect God's faithfulness. Chizamekpere, God answered my prayer, he said with pride. Unknown to him, Azuka secretly took the baby back to the shrine to fulfill her promise. She performed the dedication ritual, not realizing the spiritual chains she was placing on her innocent child. As Chizaramekpere grew, strange things began to happen. At night, she would wake up and hum melodies that no one in the house had ever heard. She would sit by a basin of water for hours, staring into the water as if listening to voices no one else could hear. "Zaira, what are you doing?" Azuka asked one evening. "Talking to my friends," the little girl replied with a smile, pointing at the basin of water. Azuka's heart sank. What had she done? The strange occurrences intensified as Chizaramekpere grew older. At 6 years old, she often isolates herself from other children, preferring to sit alone in a corner, mumbling words in a language no one understood. At first, Obiefuna dismissed it as a child's imagination, but Azuka, who knew the secret buried deep in her heart, couldn't shake the feeling of dread. One fateful night, Azuka was jolted awake by the sound of singing. The melody was haunting yet beautiful, echoing through the walls of their small home. She nudged Obiefuna awake. "Can you hear that?" she whispered, her voice trembling.
They both tiptoed to Zara's room and pushed the door open. There she was, standing in the middle of the room, her face tilted upward, singing praises in a voice too mature for a 6-year-old. Her eyes were wide open but glassy, as though she was in a trance. "Zara!" Obiefuna called, shaking her gently. The singing stopped abruptly, and she collapsed into his arms, fast asleep. The couple exchanged worried glances. "What is happening to our daughter?" Obiefuna whispered, fear evident in his voice. Azuka remained silent, guilt clawing at her heart. She knew the answer but couldn't bring herself to confess. Years passed, and Chizaramekpere blossomed into a beautiful 10-year-old. Her big curious eyes sparkled with life, and her laughter filled their home with joy. But beneath her playful demeanor, something dark lingered. A constant shadow seemed to follow her. Azuka, now deeply involved in the church, had long since abandoned the rituals at the river. Each visit had left her feeling empty and afraid. She knew in her heart that she was doing something wrong, and the guilt consumed her. One day, after hearing a sermon at church, she decided never to return to the river. "This is fetish," she told herself. "I can't keep bowing to spirits when I have turned my life over to God. Chizaramekpere is his child, not theirs." But breaking her promise to the river goddess came with a price. Not long after Azuka stopped visiting the river, strange things began to happen. Zara, who had always been healthy and vibrant, started falling sick frequently. She would develop high fever that left her weak and gasping for breath. Doctors couldn't find anything wrong with her. Worse still, Zara kept seeing things no one else could. One night, as she lay in her room, she screamed so loudly that Azuka and Obiefuna came running. "What is it, my child?" Azuka asked, clutching her daughter tightly. Zara pointed at the corner of the room, her tiny body trembling. "Mommy, they are here again. They are coming to take me." Azuka and Obiefuna exchanged worried glances. "Who is coming, Zara?" Obiefuna asked, trying to calm her. "The people in the water," Zara whispered, her voice barely audible. "They keep calling me. They say I belong to them." Azuka's heart sank. She realized the gravity of her mistake. The word echoed like thunder in her mind. The water goddess was coming for her child. "No, I am your mother. I betted you. No one else did." She ran into her room, locked the door, and fell to her knees. "God, please forgive me," she cried. "I have sinned. I know I should have trusted you more. Please save my daughter." One night, after Zara had another terrifying episode, Azuka cried herself to sleep. In her dream, she saw a man dressed in a long white robe. His face radiated kindness, and his voice was firm yet gentle. "Azuka," he called. "Yes, my lord," she replied, falling to her knees. Why have you used your hand to throw away what I freely gave to you? He asked, his eyes piercing into her soul. Azuka began to sob. I thought I was helping myself. I didn't know I was rejecting your blessing. The man continued, before Chizaramekpere was formed in your womb, I knew her. Before she was born, I sanctified her and ordained her a prophet. She belongs to me, not to the waters. Take her back from the hands of darkness. Fight for her. She is mine. Azuka woke up with a start, shouting, Zara, Zara! She ran to her daughter's room, finding her curled up in a corner crying. Azuka scooped her up in her arms, holding her tightly. I will never lose you, she said, her tears soaking Zara's hair. I am sorry, my child. I will make it right this time. Azuka finally confessed everything to Obiefuna, her desperation, the rituals, and her broken promise to the river goddess. Obiefuna listened quietly, his face a mixture of pain and resolve. I understand you, Azuka. We have to fight for our daughter, he said, no matter what it takes. The next Sunday, they took Zara to a powerful man of God known for deliverance prayers. The pastor listened to their story and began to pray fervently for Zara. The first session was intense. Zara screamed, her voice unnatural for a child her age. She thrashed about her small body, writhing as though an invisible force was trying to hold her back. The congregation joined in, their voices rising in prayer. Every chain binding this child is broken in Jesus' name, the pastor declared. Zara suddenly limped, and a powerful silence filled the room. For the first time in months, she slept soundly at night. The deliverance wasn't a one-time event. Azuka and Obiefuna committed themselves to a regular prayer and fasting, standing in the gap for their daughter. Zara began to change, her health improved, and the strange vision stopped. She even started showing a deep interest in church activities, often surprising her parents with her knowledge of scriptures. Azuka marveled at the transformation. One day, as she watched Zara singing a hymn, tears filled her eyes. God, I thank you for giving me another chance, she whispered. Azuka's mother-in-law, who had once tormented her, was also transformed by the event. Watching Zara grow into a healthy, God-fearing child softened her heart. She apologized to Azuka one day, holding her hands tightly. I was wrong, my daughter, she said, her voice trembling. I should have supported you when you needed me. Instead, I tore you down. Forgive me, my daughter. Azuka smiled through her tears. Mama, I forgive you. Let's move forward together as a family now. Azuka and Obiefuna's story is a testament to the power of faith, love, and perseverance. It's a call to all family to stand together, trusting that in God's time, all things will work out for good. Thank you for watching.